Hi there. Welcome to Reddit Confessions. What you're about to hear isn't a love story. It's the sound of one unraveling. Quietly, slowly, the way wallpaper peels when no one's looking. The dishwasher was still running when I walked in. That detail should mean nothing, but it's what haunts me the most. Because the cycle had 20 minutes left. And Dana had been gone for at least 3 hours. That means she'd said it before she left. Before the suitcase was zipped. Before the lipstick-stained mug was rinsed and placed neatly inside. Before the note. Before everything. It means she wanted the dishes clean when I found the truth. And yeah, I did. In the form of a letter she never meant for me to see. A letter addressed to someone named G. A letter I read while the dishwasher hummed like a lullaby in a burning house. Let me paint the moment. I just finished the worst work meeting of my life. Virtually muted, barely awake, surviving on reheated coffee and Advil. I came downstairs for a snack. And what I got instead was a note stuck on the fridge with a novelty magnet that said, "Taco bout tired. Be back in a few days. Don't panic. Don't call. Love, D." I didn't panic. Not at first. I just stood there staring at it like it was missing half the sentence. A few days? No explanation. No smiley face or bad doodle like she usually adds. No joke about needing space from my overcooked pasta or my snoring. I opened the fridge. Empty. Opened the pantry. Cleaned out. I checked the bedroom. Her robe was gone. The drawer with her jewelry open. It felt like walking through a room seconds after an evacuation alarm. But again, no panic. Not yet. Just questions. Stupid ones like, did she take the toothpaste? And, should I text her now or wait an hour? Then I heard the beep from the dishwasher. Cycle. Complete. And something about that ding made my chest tighten. I opened the dishwasher door. Steam poured out. Inside, a folded napkin sat wedged between two bowls like it was hiding. Like it was ashamed. It wasn't a napkin. It was a letter. The handwriting was hers. Neat, poetic, beautiful. But the words were not. I hate lying to him. He looks at me like I'm still the person he married. But I'm not. I haven't been for a long time. You make me feel alive. He makes me feel invisible. There was more. Too much more. Talk of secret hotel rooms. Of how she laughed when I cried during that movie she never liked. Of how predictable I'd become. And then the line that split my heart wide open. He'll never know. He doesn't pay attention. That's what makes it easy. I dropped the letter. I sat on the kitchen floor. The steam from the dishwasher had fogged my glasses. Or maybe it was just me. I didn't cry. Not yet. I think part of me hoped it was a bad joke. A creative writing exercise. Some experimental therapy technique. But deep down, I knew Dana wasn't on a break. She was escaping. I didn't call her. I didn't send angry texts. I didn't even tell my sister, who hates secrets. Instead, I wrote a letter of my own. And I left it on the bed she hadn't slept in for 3 nights. I told her I knew. I told her I hoped G made her feel more than invisible. And I told her I was leaving too, just without the lies. I turned off my phone. I walked out the door. And then, 2 weeks later, she emailed me. Subject line, "I had no idea you knew until I read your letter." And what she said next wasn't an apology. It was something much, much darker. The irony is, I never wanted her to read it. Not really. That letter I left, it was more like a scream into a void. A final breath. Not revenge. Not closure. Just the last words of a man who finally realized he'd been talking to a ghost for months. I hadn't planned anything. I didn't have some master escape route or dramatic movie moment. I packed a single duffel bag, grabbed my old laptop, a half-used notebook, and took off in my rusty '09 Subaru that still smelled like the air freshener she used to hang on the mirror. That same stupid vanilla pine scent I pretended to like. I drove for hours. No music. No GPS. Just my thoughts and the occasional freeway sign reminding me how far I still was from peace of mind. I ended up in a cheap cabin rental about 6 hours from home. The kind of place where even the spiders looked depressed. There was no cell signal, and honestly, I liked it that way. For the first time in what felt like years, no one expected anything from me. I could just exist. But of course, my brain wouldn't shut up. I kept replaying her words. The way she described me like I was a piece of worn-out furniture. "He doesn't notice anything," she wrote. And that killed me because she was right. I hadn't noticed. Not when she started wearing perfume again. Not when she suddenly had work dinners twice a week. Not even when she got a second phone and told me it was for freelance stuff. How long had she been planning her escape? How many meals did we eat together while she was mentally elsewhere, making memories with someone named G? I kept telling myself, at least I left. At least I didn't beg. At least I didn't fall apart in front of her. But in that silence, alone in that tiny freezing cabin, I did fall apart. Slowly, pathetically. By day 3, I was barely eating. I started writing in that notebook, mostly nonsense. Rambling thoughts. Half sentences. Do people actually survive heartbreak? Did I ever matter? Why didn't she just tell me? It was day 5 when I finally turned my phone back on. No missed calls. One email. From Dana. Subject: I had no idea you knew until I read it. Message: Curtis, I didn't think you'd find the letter. I swear I never wanted to hurt you like this. Please talk to me. There are things you don't understand. Please. D. I read it 3 times before I let myself breathe. At first, I felt a rush of satisfaction. Like, oh, now you want to talk? But underneath that, panic. Because if she was asking me to talk, that meant something more was going on. Something I didn't know yet. That was the worst part. The betrayal had already gutted me. But now she was dangling a new mystery in front of me. Like there was still more to uncover. I didn't reply. Instead, I did something weak. Something I'm not proud of. I stalked her socials. She hadn't posted anything since she left. But her best friend, Lee, she had a photo from that weekend of Dana. She was sitting on a rooftop patio with 2 glasses of wine in front of her. Smiling, hair done, wearing the scarf I gave her last Christmas. And across from her, blurred but unmistakable, was a man. Not G. I still had no idea who he was, but another man entirely. His arm was around her shoulders. They weren't hiding it. They looked happy. I felt something break again, because even if she had more secrets to reveal, even if there was some grand explanation, she didn't look like someone in pain. She looked like someone free. Still, something about that email gnawed at me. There are things you don't understand. So against every bone in my body screaming, don't do this, I replied. What things? What's left to say after that letter? She replied within 5 minutes. Curtis, it wasn't just one person. And not everything you think was real actually was. That was the moment my hands started to shake. Because that's when I realized this wasn't just infidelity. It was something else. Something bigger. And if what she said next was true, then my entire marriage, the way I remembered it, might have been a lie from the start. I wish I could say I braced myself for what she told me next. I wish I could say I sat down somewhere calm, put on soft music, maybe lit a candle or took a breath. But the truth is, I read her second email standing in the middle of a gas station parking lot with a half-eaten granola bar in one hand and my phone in the other. I hadn't showered in 2 days. I smelled like damp clothes and old panic. And I was nowhere near ready for what she was about to unload on me. Her email didn't start with, I'm sorry. It didn't start with, I regret everything, or please take me back. No, Dana opened with, I'm going to tell you everything, but I don't expect you to forgive me. That should have been my cue to stop reading. But of course I didn't. She said it started small. Harmless, even. A kiss with someone at a conference out of state. He was married too. It meant nothing, she wrote, but it made me feel seen. And from there, she said, it spiraled. Not just one affair. Not even 2. She admitted to 4. For different men over the past 2 years. Each one brought into her life in moments when she felt unheard, trapped, restless. I had to reread that part 3 times. Not because I didn't understand the words, but because the person writing them didn't sound like the woman I married. Or maybe she did and I just never paid close enough attention. Maybe I was always talking over the quiet screams. But then came the part that stopped me cold. She said, "You weren't supposed to find the letter to G. That wasn't for you. But now that you know, I need to tell you something worse." My fingers went numb. I leaned against the hood of my car and kept reading. G wasn't just someone I cheated on you with. He was someone you knew. Someone who's been in our home. Multiple times. That's when my vision went black around the edges. She didn't say the name. Not yet. But suddenly, my memory went into overdrive, flipping through every dinner party, every holiday gathering, every casual Friday night game night in our living room. Who was there? Who laughed too hard at her jokes? Who hugged her just a little too long? I could feel bile in the back of my throat. I called her. I shouldn't have, but I did. She answered instantly. "Curtis," she whispered. "Say it." I choked. "Say who it was." There was silence. Then she said one name, Evan. And just like that, the floor dropped out from under me. Evan wasn't just a friend. He was my best friend. We met in high school. We were each other's best men. He helped us move into that house. He built our patio. He knew the code to our garage. And all this time, he was sleeping with my wife. My wife. I don't remember much after that. I think I screamed. I think I hung up. I might have thrown my phone into a ditch. I honestly couldn't tell you. All I remember is stumbling back into the car, gripping the steering wheel like I could crush it with my bare hands, and wondering how I could have been so stupid. How many times had I left them alone? How many times had I invited him over, sat across from him at my own dinner table, while he smiled and lied to my face? And Dana, she just let it happen. Repeatedly. Willingly. And now she wanted to explain it to me? She wanted to dump it all on me like I was her emotional landfill? I started driving with no direction again, just to keep my hands busy, to keep from screaming at the top of my lungs. But even with the windows down and the cold wind slapping my face, I couldn't outrun it. Not the betrayal. Not the shame. Not the bone-deep ache of knowing that the two people I trusted most turned my life into a private joke behind my back. But then came the next email, sent just an hour later. Short, blunt, and somehow even more gutting than the last. "Curtis, please come home. I didn't just betray you. I broke something else too. And it's bigger than you think." Now I was no longer angry. Now I was scared. What else was there? What could possibly be worse? I didn't want to go back. But I needed answers. And deep down, I feared this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I tried, God, I tried. I lay on the lumpy mattress in that freezing cabin, staring at the water-stained ceiling like it held some secret message I'd missed in my marriage. My heart wasn't racing. It was collapsing, slow and exhausted. There's something uniquely cruel about being betrayed by the person whose face you once thought of as home. And worse still when it wasn't just them. She and Evan, I kept seeing their shadows in places they didn't belong. The couch where he spilled beer and laughed about college. The back porch where we all toasted New Year's with cheap champagne. The guest bathroom he helped me install, tile by tile, while Dana brought us lemonade and kissed my cheek like she wasn't already kissing him behind my back. But it was the second email that wrecked what was left of me. "Come home. I broke something else." That wasn't guilt speaking. That was fear, panic, urgency. And despite every fiber of my body screaming, "Don't give her more of yourself," I found myself back on the road before sunrise. I didn't even tell anyone. What was I going to say? Hey, just heading back to see the wife who blew up our marriage and the best friend who sold me out for scraps of attention. I couldn't even say it to myself without feeling like a fool. When I pulled into the driveway, everything looked too normal. The front yard was quiet. Mail was stacked neatly in the box. The blinds were closed, but a warm light glowed from the kitchen window. And the lavender plant by the door, she'd watered it. Why would she water it if she was leaving? Why would she care for something living if she was capable of what she'd done? I unlocked the door with the spare key I'd hidden under the back porch years ago, even though I knew she probably changed the locks by now. But they hadn't been changed. The key still worked. That detail shouldn't have mattered, but for some reason it did. Inside, the house was clean, disturbingly clean, like she'd vacuumed the pain out of the carpet. The air smelled like lemon and bleach and something synthetic, like she tried to erase the scent of me. She wasn't in the kitchen, or the living room, or our bedroom. I found her sitting on the floor of the guest room, holding something in her lap, a stack of old journals. Mine. Journals I hadn't touched in years. Some she didn't even know existed. I kept them in the attic with the broken printer and the high school yearbooks. She looked up at me like I was a ghost, pale, trembling. Her eyes were red. No makeup, no armor. "Curtis," she whispered. I didn't know how much you wrote. I didn't know how much you noticed. I didn't respond. I didn't trust my voice. My legs felt locked in place. I stared at her, the woman who once held my hand through my father's funeral, now holding pages soaked in lies. She picked up one of the notebooks and opened to a page near the back. "You wrote about the night I fell asleep crying. You remembered the song that played. You even remembered the way I gripped your hand." I looked away. "So? I thought you weren't paying attention," she whispered. "I thought you didn't care anymore. That's what broke me, because I did care. Every day. Quietly. Softly. The way some people don't know how to scream their love. So they folded into grocery runs, back rubs, and waiting at the window until the porch light flicks on. And she mistook that quiet love for indifference. But even that wasn't the something else she broke. She pulled something from behind her. A manila envelope. "I wasn't going to tell you. I thought I could keep it secret. But it's not fair anymore." I took it with numb hands. Inside were papers, legal documents, dates, names, and then a paternity test. My brain stopped processing. She said his name before I could ask. "Evan. He's not just someone I was with. He might be." I cut her off. My voice cracked so hard it didn't sound like mine. "You're telling me that our baby?" She nodded before I could finish. "The baby we lost 2 years ago. The one that broke both of us. The one we mourned like our future had been stolen by fate." She looked me in the eye and said the words that will echo in my head until the day I die. "There's a chance. It wasn't yours." I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even cry. I just walked out, back into the car. And I drove. Again. But this time I wasn't driving to escape. This time, I was driving to see someone I hadn't spoken to in 15 years. My older brother, Graham. Because there's only one person who knew me before her. And maybe he'd help me figure out what the hell I was supposed to do now. I hadn't spoken to Graham in over 15 years. Our relationship had always been complicated. He was the older brother who got everything first. The car, the job, the girl, the freedom. I was the soft-spoken one, emotional, careful, always standing a few feet behind. We grew up in the same house, but we lived completely different lives. When our parents divorced, Graham disappeared into success and silence, and I stayed behind, sorting through the emotional debris. We weren't estranged exactly, we were just unfamiliar. Life stretched between us like a tightrope we'd both given up on walking. So when I pulled up outside his house, the one he built with his own hands up in the hills near Ashbrook Lake, I expected a door slam, or silence, or a polite rejection. Instead, when he opened the door, all he said was, "You look like hell," and stepped aside to let me in. I hadn't even told him what happened yet. I didn't have to. Something in my face. My sunken eyes, the unshaven jaw, the way I carried my backpack like it was filled with broken glass. Must have told him enough. He poured me a drink. Not something cheap. Not something comforting. It was whiskey so sharp it made my throat ache. I didn't care. I needed the burn. "I need to ask you something," I said after a long silence between us. He nodded but didn't speak. "Do you remember Dana's miscarriage?" He looked at me carefully. "Of course. That was rough." I swallowed hard. My hands were shaking. "There's a chance. She says it might not have been mine." He didn't react the way I thought he would. He didn't gasp or shout or even flinch. He just leaned back in the old leather chair near the fireplace and stared into the distance. "She told you that?" he asked, voice low. I nodded. And then he said something I'll never forget. Something that almost made me throw my glass across the room. She told me that 2 years ago. I froze. What? He looked down. The night she lost the baby. She called me, said she didn't know who to tell. I was in the city. I drove down. I was the one who took her to the hospital. My whole world tilted. You knew? You knew and you never told me? His eyes met mine and they were filled with a kind of sadness I didn't know how to read. Curtis, she made me promise. She said if you knew, it would destroy you, that you'd leave her, and she was scared. She swore she'd tell you eventually. And you believed her? I snapped. You thought she'd just what? Drop that on me over coffee one day. I didn't know what to believe, he said quietly. But I also knew how much you loved her, and I knew you'd blame yourself. I stood up, pacing now. My heart was pounding in my ears. So I sat there for months, years, grieving a child that might not even have been mine, and you just watched? No, he said firmly. I didn't watch. I stepped back. You stopped calling. She kept pushing me away. I thought maybe you two were finding a way through it. I didn't know about Evan. I didn't know about the rest. He rubbed his face, visibly exhausted. I didn't protect you the way I should have. I get that. But I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought keeping quiet might save your marriage. Yeah. I laughed bitterly. Well, mission failed. We sat in silence for a long time. He poured another drink. I didn't touch mine. It wasn't just Dana who had lied. It wasn't just Evan who betrayed me. It was everyone. Even the people I'd clung to as a last resort. And then, as if the universe wasn't done kicking me while I was down, Graham spoke again. There's something else you should know. Something Dana probably didn't tell you. I didn't even look at him. Go ahead. What's one more knife to the ribs? He hesitated. Evan didn't just betray you. He betrayed his wife too. I blinked. He's married. Graham nodded slowly. Her name's Veronica. She used to work at the old clinic by the river. She's quiet, sweet. I think they've got 2 kids now. Young. The silence that followed was suffocating. You're telling me Evan's married with kids and was sneaking around with my wife? Yeah. And Veronica might not know. Or she might. I don't know. Something inside me hardened. All this time I'd been spiraling, imploding quietly, journaling my heartbreak like it would save me. But someone else, another person, had been living under the same storm cloud. And she didn't even know it. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel broken. I felt something else entirely. Resolve. Because maybe this story wasn't just mine. Maybe Veronica deserved to know the truth too. And if Dana had already taken everything from me, I had nothing left to lose. I sat in the driver's seat of my car outside Graham's place for almost an hour before I even started the engine. There was a tightness in my chest that wasn't fear, and wasn't quite rage either. It was something heavier. A slow-burning need for clarity. For justice. Or maybe just for someone else to feel as shattered as I did. Because now I knew the final name in the mess Dana had built. Veronica. Evan's wife. The woman sleeping in the same bed he'd come home to after leaving mine. She had no idea. Or maybe she did. Maybe she'd been living in the same kind of limbo I had, brushing off the late-night texts and the sudden business trips, explaining away a gut feeling as paranoia. I couldn't stop thinking about her. The stranger in the middle of my story. I didn't even tell Graham I was leaving. I just got in my car, punched Evan's address into the GPS, and drove. The sun was low by the time I turned onto their quiet cul-de-sac. I parked a few houses down. It felt wrong to pull into the driveway like I had so many times before. That spot was cursed now. Tainted. Their home was picture-perfect. Red door, seasonal wreath, potted flowers lining the steps. It made me sick. How could a place look so pure while hiding something so grotesque? I had no plan, no script, just a question I couldn't let go of. Does she know? I knocked. Lightly at first, then again with more urgency. Veronica answered the door, and she looked exactly like I remembered. Calm eyes, subtle smile, the kind of woman who always seemed to be in control. But when she saw me, her smile faltered. Curtis? She said, puzzled. Is everything okay? I tried to find words. My mouth opened, but my throat locked. Can we talk? I finally asked, my voice thinner than I'd hoped. Privately? She stepped aside without a word, leading me into their living room. The same one where Evan and I had watched football games. Where I once helped them set up their baby's crib while Dana drank wine in the kitchen. I sat on the same couch Evan probably collapsed into after lying to both of us. Veronica sat across from me, her hands folded neatly in her lap. What is this about? And then I broke. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just told her everything. I told her about the note Dana left, the letter I wasn't supposed to find, the affairs, the paternity test, the revelation that the child we lost might have been Evan's. And finally, how Graham told me about her, how I learned her name, how I came here not for vengeance, but because I couldn't bear to think of her sitting in the dark like I had, waiting for someone who'd already chosen to betray her. She didn't cry, not at first. She asked me one thing, how long? 2 years, at least, I said. Maybe longer. She stood up, walked into the kitchen. I followed her there, but didn't speak. She was staring at the refrigerator. I didn't understand why until she reached up and took down a photo held by a magnet. It was of Evan holding their daughter, smiling. He lied to her too, she whispered. He kissed her with the same mouth he used to lie to me. I'll never forget that line. We sat at her kitchen table for a long time, 2 strangers thrown together by someone else's choices. I kept apologizing, even though I wasn't the one who broke her world. She kept thanking me, even though I hadn't fixed anything. And then something happened I didn't expect. She told me she had suspected it. Not Dana specifically, but something. She'd noticed changes. Distance. Evan started sleeping in the guest room when he got too tired. And she knew. She just didn't want to know. By the time I left, it was dark. The porch light had flicked on, casting long shadows over the driveway. I turned to her one last time. What are you going to do? She looked at me with eyes I'll never forget. I'm going to bury the man I thought I married. And then I'm going to start over. I nodded. If you ever need anything, I won't, she said gently but not unkindly. But thank you. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message from Dana. I saw your car. Were you at Evans? I didn't answer her, because for the first time in weeks, I felt like I'd finally done the right thing. But the story wasn't over. Not even close. Because 3 hours later, I got a voicemail from a blocked number. And what it said changed everything again. It was just past midnight when my phone buzzed again. I was parked in a half-lit motel lot just off the interstate, too wired to sleep, too numb to cry, and too exhausted to think straight. My jacket still smelled like her house. Veronica's. It wasn't perfume or food or candles. It was that heavy scent of something final. Like the air in a room where someone finally stopped pretending. I hadn't told her everything. I didn't tell her how Dana still messaged me, how the lines between guilt and manipulation were getting blurrier every time Dana reached out. And then my phone screen lit up. Unknown caller. I should have let it go to voicemail, but my instincts were too frayed. I tapped the screen and put it to my ear, half expecting silence. But it was already recording. I'd missed the call. And the message that followed? It shattered what was left of my ability to reason. The voice was male, calm, unshaken, and it wasn't Evans. It wasn't even someone I recognized. Curtis, you don't know me, but you need to hear something. Dana isn't telling you everything. Evan wasn't the only friend she crossed lines with. You should ask her about someone named Shane. He was at your wedding. You shook his hand. She spent the weekend with him last month. Told you she was with her cousin. You deserve to know. The voice paused, like it wanted to say more. Then the line went dead. At first, I sat there frozen, waiting for my mind to tell me I imagined it. But I hadn't. I played it again, and again. The voice was real. The words were specific, sharp, unmistakable. Another name, another betrayal, another loose string in a marriage that had already unraveled into ribbons. I tried to remember Shane. The name rang hollow at first, but then I remembered he was one of Evan's friends from college. They used to come by together during football season. Shane was the one with the red pickup and the bad jokes. The one who hugged Dana a little too long when he left. The one she once said was just flirtatious by nature. And now he had a place in this story too. I sat in the car for almost 30 minutes before I dialed Dana's number. My fingers trembled over the screen. I didn't even know why I was calling her. I didn't want to hear her voice. I didn't want another half-truth painted as vulnerability. But something inside me, some broken, aching part, needed to hear what kind of lie she'd tell this time. She answered on the second ring. "Curtis?" she breathed, like she was relieved. "Please don't hang up." "I know. Who is Shane?" I said, cutting through her sentence like a knife. There was a pause, but not the kind you'd expect from someone caught off guard. It was slower, heavier, like she was debating how much more to admit before I walked away for good. He doesn't matter," she said. "It was a mistake. A weekend. I thought you thought I what? Wouldn't notice? Wouldn't care?" I snapped. "You were already cheating on me with Evan and you still needed more?" "I was spiraling," she said. "You don't understand what it's like to feel invisible." "Stop," I said sharply. "Don't do that. Don't turn this into me failing to see you while you collected affair partners like backup plans." She went quiet, and for a long moment, the only sound between us was the hiss of air through the phone. Then, finally, she said something I didn't expect. "You weren't supposed to be in this version of my life, Curtis. I thought I would outgrow you eventually, but you stayed so kind. And I got cruel. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop." That sentence punched the wind out of me. She thought she'd outgrow me. All the late-night conversations. All the weekends we spent building furniture, repainting rooms, sharing inside jokes only we understood. And now, in her mind, I was just a phase. Something small she was meant to leave behind. Like a dorm room poster or a bad haircut. And the worst part? I still loved her. Even after all of this, some hollow part of me still hoped I'd wake up and find it had all been a nightmare. That she'd be beside me, mumbling about oversleeping and forgetting to water the lavender again. That I'd kiss her cheek and things would be okay. But it wasn't a dream, and I wasn't waking up. I was already awake. Too awake. "You're right," I said softly. "You did outgrow me, but you didn't have to burn me on the way out." And then I hung up. This time she didn't call back. I stayed in that parking lot until sunrise, listening to that voicemail over and over. Not to punish myself, but to remember. To remember the moment when the truth stopped being painful and became freeing. Because I was done asking questions. Done hoping for apologies. Done letting her decide what I deserved to know. All that was left now was the goodbye. And I knew exactly how to say it. It's strange, isn't it? How we think closure will come with some grand confrontation or dramatic final words. But in reality, mine came with a walk through our empty house and a pen I hadn't touched in years. After the voicemail, after Dana's confession, after everything, I went home. Not our home anymore. Just a shell filled with memories I didn't want but wasn't quite ready to let go of either. I walked through each room slowly, like I was revisiting ghosts. The bookshelf we built together still held my copy of the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, the one she never finished reading. Her coat was still hanging by the door. The lavender plant, still alive somehow, had tilted sideways, reaching toward the last bit of light sneaking through the blinds. The bed was made, perfectly made, as if pretending nothing ever happened. I didn't pack much. I didn't want much. A few books, my records, a box of journals. The dog came with me, of course. Bruno never stopped waiting by the door, loyal in ways I didn't deserve. But before I left, I sat at the dining room table, pulled out a sheet of paper, and wrote her one final letter. My letter, the real one. "Dana, I loved you so quietly. I think you forgot it was happening. I didn't expect perfection. I didn't need fireworks. I only ever wanted to be seen, truly seen. And I think that's the saddest part of all this. You kept searching for something extraordinary while overlooking the ordinary love that would have stayed beside you forever. I forgive you, not because you asked, not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to let your choices define who I am any longer. I'm not angry anymore. I'm free. Goodbye, Curtis. I folded the letter in half and placed it where she'd left her own note weeks ago, on the dishwasher, taped with a strawberry sticker. Full circle. And then I left. For good. I moved in with Graham temporarily. We talk more now than we have in years. He still feels guilty, but I told him guilt is just grief that's confused about where to go. We both lost something, but we're rebuilding. Slowly. Veronica, she filed for divorce. We've exchanged a few emails since. Nothing romantic, just two people who survived the same wreckage and floated back to shore. As for me, I started therapy, started journaling again, started walking Bruno twice a day, no headphones, no distractions. Just me and the sound of my own thoughts, finally allowed to breathe. And one morning, weeks later, something small but important happened. I laughed. It wasn't a forced chuckle or a bitter scoff. It was real, loud, unexpected, the kind of laugh that makes strangers glance your way on a park bench. I can't even remember what caused it. Maybe something Bruno did, maybe a line from a podcast. But in that moment, I realized I wasn't broken anymore. I was healing, piece by piece. I'll never understand all the reasons why she did what she did. I've stopped trying. Some questions don't have answers. But I know who I am now. And I'm not invisible. Not anymore. I'm someone who stayed kind through betrayal. Someone who let go with grace. Someone who chose peace over revenge. And if you're watching this, maybe you've been there too. Thanks for following my story. If you've made it this far, I want to hear from you. What was the moment you knew it was time to walk away? Was it a note? A look? A silence too loud to ignore? Share your story in the comments. I'll be reading every single one. This has been Reddit Confessions, where the truth finally has a voice. And sometimes, that voice says goodbye so you can finally say hello to something better.